Well, this is Jamal in the Cooper Road mini basement with our 5-speed project. Let's update what we've been doing here. Now, we've taken quite a bit of time to play with this thing amidst other projects on and off. And our idea was to take apart this linkage and basically reshim, kind of rethink what they did with the interior linkage here. The stack of forks at the bottom there was shimmed in such a way that it was extremely difficult to select gates. So what we've got going on here is I went through just a ton of these spacer shims, the hardened washers that go in between these little forks on the stacks. And the concept of this 5-speed basically takes and creates a gap in between the 3rd and 4th gate and the reverse gate, allowing for a 5th gear gate. The way they do that is they stack these shims differently. They put a big spacer in here in place of one of these little shift forks, so that it basically gives it an extra gate in between where 3rd and 4th used to be. Now that's crowding the other gates, and you got to be very careful to not make things worse as far as the other gears go, and that's exactly what happened here. Maybe a little bit of it wore out, maybe just some use on the box. You know, it's been said that it's an early case, a development box maybe. But in any event, we found a good way to restack these and create some very definite gates, and we have our shift linkage working very crisply indeed. So before I put it together here as a final assembly, let me just show a little bit of what we did and maybe some of the differences that people may never notice on these things. Take a look at the modified forks here. This is reverse. What they've done is they've welded in an extra little piece here and then machined it flat. So what that does, it gives this fork now sits further in the box, because that's part of how they created the gap. And at first it looks a little clumsy. I was hoping to sort of change all these forks out, but you can see how that extra distance there allows it to be reached by this lug. You know, the little lug that spins around here that we've been playing with. That guy right there in the center on this side has to reach now further at an angle to find reverse. So they had to extend this little fork here by welding in a piece and then blending it to make it work. And so that's one of the things you just can't get around. I have to use this fork. I don't have any way of hardness welding and then reheat treating. That'd be a big mess. So part of that modification then raises the length of this little stack here. Essentially that's the finger that reaches up and shifts to reverse. They had to make it taller on this because it now sits lower in the box. On a machined disc down here, this little spacer, which starts out looking like this in a regular rod chain, just had half of this flange down here probably shaved down to allow that reverse fork to now drop further in the box. So part of the project here to make this thing shift crisply, I discovered that a modified 1st/2nd fork here was pretty worn out. Now again, I suspect that these things are built using harvesting parts from used 4-speeds. And you can see the condition of this fork when we stick our shaft in there. I mean, that can't help the thing have much crisp shifting. Here's a much better one. And here's one of the really late ones with this extra ear up here that gives it a lot more surface, pushing it into 1st. This one is also extremely nice and tight. And so we're going to match the modification they did here. Basically, they shortened this shaft off to allow, this is where 5th gear now operates. So I got to take these, and in fact I'm going to use this one. Let's push that out of the way, see? So I'm going to shorten this by machining that off, creating that same space. But we'll have a perfectly good shift fork that has no wear, and in fact has an extra ear. We'll make sure that clears everything. We've got our shims here. I have a micrometer, so I'm able to measure, you know, within thousandths or half thousandths. I've got these grouped so that I can optimize the stack on this little guy inside the box. I've selected from a whole mess of these. You can see ones here I've looked at, looking for the best engagement, the best looking teeth. We've got kind of a slew of parts here that we're not going to use. We've selected just the best available pieces, and I'm going to set this up in a way that it'll shift smoothly. I'm going to put the forks in place after I've modified them, and we'll make really sure that it engages all the gear positions before we put any gears in the box. And I think we're going to be very happy with the results.